So I started to watch a show, which just finally I had a little bit of time, and I started watching a show, and all of a sudden my daughter hears the TV on and comes downstairs and lays on my lap, and people are getting shot in the head and things like that. It's it's an action movie, and I'm like, okay, I gotta turn this off now. It's like
oh man, I can't watch John Wick 4 if you're down here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when you just got to do eye muffs, where you just.
I know. I tried. I was like, I tried to put her blanket on her head, or kind of like position it so she was looking away from it while she was.
Bro, you got to get on that Bluetooth headphone game.
Oh, I know. That's actually very true. I think that would help, and just an iPad, I think.
The first time that Apple TV prompted me to put my headphones in, I was like, "What? I don't want to do that." But then I was like, "Wait a minute, is it going to sound better?" I haven't tried it yet.
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean-American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to The Janchi Show, everybody. Rock out.
What is up? It's bedtime for the children.
It's the whisper
hello.
hour on The Janchi Show.
It's the whisper on our AirPods hour.
Oh god,
this is Janchi After Dark.
But in a very kid-friendly kind of way.
Right, yeah.
You've heard of Miss Rachel? Welcome to Appa Hour.
Hello. 안녕하세요.
Annyeong. All right, for real though, welcome everybody to the Janchi Show. It's your boys KJ, Nathan, Patrick, back with a fantastic interview full episode with a Chinese adoptee. Before we get too far into that, fellas, how are you?
Did you just forget your own name?
What? No, he put his name in there.
He just had the little extra pause. He goes, "It's," and then I'm like, he forgot what his name was.
I did forget a lot about what we do here on the show. So Nathan, I guess before answering how you are, will you also actually answer how you are and also tell us what we do here on the show?
I are good. I speak good too. No, great. Doing well. Happy to be recording the Janchi Show, which we are a podcast. Janchi is a word that we took for celebration, to celebrate, to feast, and we are celebrating our lived stories, our diverse stories and lived experiences. Yes, we are a podcast. Did I say that already?
No, I just can't believe you said it to begin with.
You said it twice now.
Is that too obvious to say that when we're actually,
when you're, hey everybody, I know that you're listening to this episode through your podcast player of choice, but I wanted to let you know we're a podcast.
We are a podcast.
Well, I mean, to say we're the Janchi Show is also, they know that because they clicked on it. So.
Ridiculous.
Hey,
ridiculous.
You're right.
We're a little rusty, everyone. We have been gone for a while. We apologize, but we are back.
On my other podcast, I just had a new dad on, and we talked about being dads. And one of the things we talked about is that you have no brain anymore. Yeah. So this is the space that we're operating.
Yeah, there's dad brains and there's mom brains. No brain, and both are valid and exist for sure. Yes, they might exist in different realms, though. Like different things happen,
different planes of consciousness.
Yes, exactly. So my dad brain works differently. So,
hey, at least it works.
Yeah, but
amazing.
Hey, I mean, yeah. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I was really. I was like feeling okay about not going to con, and then Saturday night rolls around and I see all the stories and the photos and people like hanging out, meeting up. I'm like, dang! And I immediately texted my friend who lives here, and I'm like, we should have like made plans to hang out tonight at least or something, because she was feeling the same way as me. And we're like, yeah, it's okay. Like it just didn't work out this year. But then like the FOMO hit so hard. But we had actually a number of people that I hang out with here in Dallas go to con for the first time or second time or whatever, and it was cool. I saw Stephanie was a speaker, didn't even know that was happening. So
with me,
with
that was
Patrick.
Awesome. So
Patrick doesn't give you the insider scoop. Apparently,
that's fine.
I don't know.
But yeah,
I told
so
anybody.
it was just.
Patrick didn't know he was a speaker until the day before.
That's fair. Yeah, he's like, I think I just have to show up. I don't know.
I'm talking.
But yeah, no, it's always cool just to watch. Like, it seemed like it was a good time had by most. Yeah, so it was just cool to be there. But I'm really, really glad to be back here doing this with y'all, because it just made me like, it reinforced like the importance of community, reinforced the importance of doing a good thing, of telling our stories and being with people who trust, who we can find trust with. And yeah, just doing this. And so I'm really excited to be here, be back, and to be able to share this story, this interview with our new friend, Mei Tomko, who, like I said, is a Chinese adoptee. And I was reminded in this episode, like, how small the window for Chinese adoption is, and like just wild. But Mei was so great telling us her story about, just growing up in northern, did you say Philadelphia, right?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
But she's in Pennsylvania. Yeah. One of the few places. But then she's in the DMV now. But yeah, growing up there, and then she's done like a lot of cool stuff. And so yeah, really excited to throw to that interview. So we're gonna do that right now.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show interview time. We are very happy to be back with a wonderful interview portion of our show. We have a very special guest today with us, Mei Tomko, all the way from the DMV, as we have learned over the years of the podcasting what that is. Mei, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All the way from the DMV.
It's all the way from the DMV.
I like that. All the way from the DMV? Question mark?
It's still an unknown area for me. I've only been there once when I was little. Yeah.
Man.
You got to make it out here to the not so mini Koreatown.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you were telling us about that, and I was like, wow, I would love to come back out there one of these days. I definitely get out there. But the show is not about my travels. The show is about you. So, Mei, thank you again, though, for being on our show. As you may have listened to some of the episodes, we always like to start our show with your story. And you can start with as much or as little as you'd like to tell us, and jump on in.
My name's Mei Tomko. I was born in Guangdong, China, specifically in Yangchun, southern China, in 2001, and I was adopted in 2003 when I was around 15 months old. And I was adopted by my mom and dad, who are a white couple, and I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. So you can imagine what that was like, growing up in a town of 3,000 people in a very rural, I wouldn't even say predominantly white, pretty much all white area. That was my high school was 95% white. Yeah, my high school was 95% white. And I was one of the very few Asian people or people of color in general in my community that I saw growing up. I have a younger brother who's adopted from another part of China, and we're pretty close in age, so I had that person growing up with me. But other than that, it was pretty isolating. But I feel like the way that I grew up really taught me a lot, and really shaped who I've become, and also like my interest professionally. So I'm really excited to be here and share my story.
Yeah, I am thrilled to have you on. And sorry, Patrick, we're just finding a rhythm. So I was reading your form, and you talked about growing up, being one of the only people of color, but like still celebrating your ethnic Chineseness, ethnic Asianness. What was the impetus for that? Or was it just like you were like, you just looked like gravitated towards any Asianness that you could find and you were like, that's me? Or was that like spurred on by some other person in your life or a family member? Or what was that like?
So that's a great question. It was very interesting growing up. So my parents growing up were very encouraging of my brother and I celebrating our Chinese culture and Chinese heritage. But there wasn't many avenues or outlets for us to do that. So, for example, it was a group of local families, all white, who adopted children from China and started this like annual Chinese culture camp, like a week-long Chinese culture camp in the city nearby us. But I think due to a lack of resources, it was predominantly the parents, quote unquote, like teaching their children about Chinese culture for a week. So it was a bit interesting. Definitely the sentiment and the good sentiment was there. I think a lot of it was due to a lack of resources simply where we lived, of having Chinese community members to, be involved with that camp. But I would go to that every year. We would also celebrate Chinese New Year by eating Chinese takeout or making dumplings.
You're like, now, May, this is fried rice.
But we couldn't. They did not sell dumpling wrappers where I lived, so we used wonton wrappers. So it's like I feel like that's kind of a good description of my upbringing and my how my culture was celebrated and represented growing up, is where it's kind of like the intention was always positive and always there, but the mark was not always hit. So I feel like my parents did what they knew at the time.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so sweet to be like, we want to celebrate you and we don't have a lot to work with. So here's what we're working
with. We don't know how.
Yeah.
I really wish I knew the phrase intent over impact or impact over intent when I was a kid. And even if I wouldn't understand it, I could have just used it. And hopefully it would have landed. But so I am interested in like this. So embracing your ethnic culture, being led by kind of white folks to do so. You end up, in your form at least, embracing it in a different way through like YouTube and through like other people who are creating. I was wondering if you could share like that first initial discovery and what it was like to like see other Asian people, particularly Chinese folks, like talking about what it means to be Chinese, and then being like, wait a minute, that's not what I just learned at this dinner that we just did.
Yeah, so I feel like I was brought up in the age of when YouTube was really starting to take off in the early like 2010s. So I grew up with a lot of the OG YouTubers like Ryan Higa and like Superwoman and all of the like Wong Fu Productions, like the very iconic Asian American YouTubers. And like, for example, when I was little in 3rd grade, I recreated one of Ryan Higa's videos with my friend who was not Asian, but we just like loved his videos.
Again, do the best of what you had.
Yeah, like because we just loved his videos, and like we like, and I would just really enjoyed watching their content, and I think maybe subconsciously I enjoyed watching it because there are no other Asian people around me, but I was able to, kind of have that sense of, oh, I'm not the only like Asian person in the world, by just watching these, people who are slightly older than me, living their lives and also talking about what their experiences were like as Asian Americans, but they framed it in a very comical way. And I feel like them talking about their experiences as growing up as first gen or like immigrant Asian Americans, I was able to kind of see like what their experience is like as an Asian American and how it was different than my experience. Like the jokes and things they talked about. I think that's how I started to learn about those experiences and that kind of humor. But then at the same time, because that's all I saw, and even then there was no like Asian representation in mainstream media, like all of it was on YouTube, I feel like at that point. So because that was all I was seeing, I realized that I was kind of diminishing my own experience as not Asian enough, or like not authentically Asian American enough, because I wasn't seeing it reflected at all. So in a way, I feel like my adoptee coming out of the fog journey was kind of reverse of I always had a very strong sense of racial identity, but not adoptee identity.
Okay, so I like linealized like the YouTube and like learning from your parents about Chinese culture, and I think what was happening was they were moving concurrently, like they were happening at the same time. You were learning from the YouTubers and checking out people doing that at the same time as you were like your parents were trying to embrace it with everything, the things that they had at their disposal. Did you ever feel like you could like when you were like see something on YouTube that was like different than maybe what you were hearing from your parents, did you feel like you could have that conversation with them at that time? Like at any point, maybe not in third grade, but as you were a little bit older, as you were getting, approaching college or whenever, like, is that something that you felt like a conversation you could approach with them?
Honestly, I never had a conversation with my parents related to adoption, really. I think until the murder of George Floyd in 2020, when I was coming to terms with my proximity to whiteness and how that impacted me being an Asian person in the US. Before that, it was very briefly, and it would more so just be about kind of things in passing related to like racism related to like, if I experienced racism or something, but it was just very much like in passing, or I might not even share something like that. So it wasn't really a topic of conversation. It was just, I was enjoying this media on my own. But as I discovered different kinds of media, like anime and then later K-pop, I would share it with my brother and with my family because it was something I enjoyed and I wanted to share it with them. But it didn't really bring up those kinds of conversations of different Asian American experiences.
They were just like, here's some entertainment that Mei likes. That's cool.
Yes,
kind of
pretty much.
Yeah, you're like, you're into Pokemon. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think when I got older, especially when I got into K-pop, I think my mom started to kind of see how like, because for example, like anime, it's animation, so you can't really see it as linearly, or when you're really young, you're just watching like funny people on YouTube. It's a little different. But I think when I was starting to watch K-pop and then also learn more about Korean culture through Korean media and consuming it that way, I think my mom was able to see that I was really longing to have that kind of representation and community, especially because I was older and could articulate it a little bit better.
You can
even
say,
though
Mom,
that,
I want this.
Yeah, even though that longing was always there, but like my mom was the GOAT. Like literally, she would write excused absences and say, "My daughter is going to experience Korean culture today through music, so she will not be in class," and then like drive me to a concert.
Shout out to your mom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Like, we always say we're not ageist on the show, but we are age aware. And like, so I think I'm really similar to you in that my parents also really helped celebrate my ethnic Koreanness. But being born in 93, so like just, 10 years before you and coming of age in America, like in that way, I felt like there was such a strong Chinese American sense of like, that was out there. And it could just be proximity too, because I was in Dallas, but like I was like, oh yeah, Chinese people are everywhere, whatever, and like they're out there doing their thing, and that's cool, and watching the same media like YouTube content and be like, oh yeah, so many Chinese people up in here. But then I was like, where are my Koreans at? And then like you get to the tens and you're like, oh, suddenly like Gangnam Style comes out and everybody's like K-pop, and then like it just like explodes, right? And then you've got the corn dogs and K-dramas and all this stuff, and then everybody's like very into Korean culture all of a sudden, which like is nice for me now, but back then I was like, man, it's just so much Chinese stuff. So it's interesting that like for you it was like, oh no, I was like coming of age at the same time that Korean culture was exploding and being like, where are my Chinese people at? So yeah, that's just so interesting, and I'm curious too, because of some of the parallels in our story, when you were watching that YouTube content and watching Asian Americans just talk about being Asian American, how did that affect your personality, or did it affect your personality? Because like when I was watching some of that stuff, I was like, oh, is this how I should be if I want to be like Asian American? Is this what it means to be like an Asian American boy, like, or a man or whatever? Like is this what like Asian American girls are like? Because like I didn't have a lot of Asian American girls in my life, you know, in my circles. So I felt like I was kind of learning the rhythms of what it meant to be Asian American through these YouTube creators, and then trying to like in my own kind of like feeling like I need to belong and be part of Asian Americanness, like try to like apply that to my personality. Like did watching all that content shape you at all in any way?
When you were just speaking, I was like, that sounds exactly like me. Because I definitely felt that, because that was in media, even though it's just people speaking about their own experiences, that's all that I had, and no one talked about being an adoptee, especially I think because a lot of, you know, the era of colorblindness in the 90s into the 2000s, but then also just us, especially Chinese adoptees, not being old enough to like articulate our stories and things to that degree. I definitely felt like I had to be a certain way, or at least understand a certain kind of, you know, like humor and experience in order to be seen as what you were saying, like kind of more authentically, quote unquote, Asian American. And that because I didn't see my experiences reflected, I felt like I had to hide them in order to be accepted as like quote unquote a real Asian American, even though no one has ever told me that. Thankfully, no one's ever made me feel less Asian because I'm a transracial adoptee, but it definitely impacted how I viewed myself.
Can I ask, who are you hiding that from? Like, because you mentioned like growing, like you weren't in like super Asian spaces necessarily, but and I know what that means. Like, but like, who for you? Like, who are you hiding your Asianness or your own story from?
It was mostly when I would meet other Asian Americans. Like I did a few different like academic summer program things, and became friends with other like Asian Americans. None of them were adoptees, so you know, like that. Or then it was kind of be like eventually I would tell them a little bit once I felt I kind of proved myself, I guess. Even though
you're like, yeah, I like boba.
Like, you know, like I felt like I was accepted in some way, especially early into college too. Might have, you know, projected that insecurity or something like that, because I just was not confident in my identity as a whole, but rather just being an Asian person rather than a transracially adopted Asian American person.
Yeah. So I'm curious about, like, you know, you brought up 2020 George Floyd's murder as a flashpoint for you. What shifted in how you saw yourself, like when that happened, into like I guess the next couple of years, really? Like what, like was it like that you started taking in more stuff? Like what? Yeah, I don't know. Just what was going on in your brain when all that broke?
So before that, I was involved with a lot of Asian American student organizations on my college campus, and was on e-board, and you know, was very involved in the Asian American student space, and also with some international students from Asia too. We had a language exchange program, but as I said, I never spoke about my adoptee identity really. But then in 2020, I saw in a lot of non-adoptee Asian American discourse talking about anti-Blackness in Asian American communities. And it really made me sit with how I didn't grow up with that rhetoric, but I grew up with different types of racism and messaging because I grew up in a white community. So it really made me think about how my proximity to whiteness has benefited me and also potentially harmed other people, and just really made me very reflective on myself and how I've experienced the world and how that has differed from other people. And in a way as well, how my upbringing has, I think, given me an ability to code switch in a way that's different than other people, because of my family being different, and then also how I'm perceived, and, all of the things that a lot of transracially adopted people go through. So it made me just be very honest with myself. And I think when I was really able to start accepting the fact that I was adopted by a white family, grew up in a white community, have an all-white family, and accept that that's okay. I think I just wanted to hide that, and accepting that it's okay that I grew up that way, and that doesn't make me any less Asian or, any less anything. It's just simply, that is me. That is my life. I see you shaking your head, Patrick. Just fully accepting that that's me, and I can't do anything about that. I feel like was very healing for me, but also very powerful in my activism and being able to tell my story to other people and just feel like I can fully be myself.
Yeah, I'm just head nodding because I'm just in affirmation, total affirmation. And I think too, one thing I want to add is, like, you had shared how you had just gotten involved in like the Asian American student space and were really active in there. And like we have these moments where we have rupture or we come to consciousness or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, it feels like those things can be like when we reckon with like our proximity to whiteness, it like, we can feel it lessen the impact of the stuff that we've already done, or like to be like, wait, was I even supposed to be doing that? I don't know. I wasn't really doing that because I was so rejecting everything. I was just like, I'm white and I'm going to continue to be that way because I was told by Asian people that I was white because I was adopted. So, but I think like it's just to hear your story, I think it's super incredible because it's like, or it's just like indicative of how monumentous this like thing can be, because you were already doing the work, like, and then to have this moment and be like, and have to work to be like, I'm okay, like that's okay, like it's this thing exists in the same space as all of the other stuff, because it's just like, I don't know, I'm just getting on a soapbox now because I'm just like I'm just like, man, it sucks that we have to go through that, to like the mental exercise of being like, oh wait, was all that stuff that I just did not really worth it? Like, was I not supposed to be doing this? And then and then it's like, then you start questioning your whole past and your family life and yada yada. And it's just, well, at least that's stuff that I've went through. Not speaking for everyone, but I feel like when we have those moments, it's just like, it sucks that we have to like go through the dance of trying to like, okay, this is okay. And some people have to spend thousands of dollars to go through certain types of like treatment or therapy or support, whatever they need to be able to get to that point. And some people never get to that point, and it sucks. Yeah. So I was just affirming you, and I don't have a question. I was just
we're just over here celebrating that because, to Patrick's
100%.
point, we love hearing adoptees who, even though it sucks to go through it, who are able to come out the other side and be like, I'm a whole ass person, and I am in my fullness. I am worth celebrating, and I'm going to celebrate me. And I think that's such a lovely thing. I'm curious, how has like that kind of expansiveness of who you are as a person impacted you brought up activism. So I guess really, before I ask the question, I'm curious about like, what is activism for you? What does that look like for you? What shape does it take?
So I did a lot of activism in college when I was involved with our Asian American Student Union. I was the head of our advocacy team, I guess you could call it. So I feel like I was able to bring a different lens to Asian American advocacy that the club was doing, because I have that experience of being a transracial adoptee, but also being an immigrant, that a lot of first generation or, children of immigrants who are citizens, their experiences might not intersect with the ones that I have. So I feel like I was able to bring a more unique and more inclusive perspective to what was previously being done, as well as being inclusive of Asian American experiences that were not often talked about and this was a conversation in the club too, is that historically that a lot of Asian American spaces have been focused on East Asian experiences, like East Asian child of immigrant or, first gen experiences, and very model minority myth fitting experiences. So I feel like with my perspective, I was able to elevate other experiences because I felt like adoptee experiences weren't elevated. So kind of looking at what other experiences also were not. And then I also, my very last semester of college, my entire college, I waited for it to happen, but no one created it, even though they said they would. So I was like, okay, I'm going to create our first adoptee student organization.
Hell yeah.
And my very last semester, it got approved and we hosted 4 events. And it was pretty much just creating the foundation for a student organization centered on adoptee experiences, not just Asian adoptee experiences, but adoptee experiences of all kinds. And the organization still exists. Shout out to Asian American, or not Asian American, shout out to American University's Adoptee Alliance. That was my baby that I co-founded with one of my friends. But it's really cool seeing that something that I created and a space that I wished existed when I was a student still exists today and is that space for students who are there now.
Amazing. I mean, honestly,
yeah, that's freaking incredible.
That's starting something like that. I can only wish I had the, I don't know, the drive to do more of that when I was younger. I mean, I was always just doing my own thing of like, school, college, sports, maybe a little bit of my career. I wasn't ever thinking about, equality or advocacy or things like that benefited, other people. And I really wish I had, because now that's what I feel like all I do is that now. I mean, I started getting into the, the service industry of photography and then, nonprofits and stuff like that. But I also noticed that you've created a website too for a resource hub. When did you do that? And what was the, what was the drive to do that?
So I believe I created that in spring 2023, right after I graduated and didn't have a job yet. So I think I just had a lot of free time and wanted to create a resource database, compiling podcasts, videos, blogs, articles, anything related to adoption, but more so focused on adoptee stories and perspectives, because I hadn't seen anything that compiled all of that somewhere online. So I just felt like I had a lot of free time. I want to do something that would help benefit our adoptee community. And I know that finding resources, especially when you're starting on your own adoptee exploration journey, I guess you could say, finding resources and things was one of the hardest things that I encountered. I pretty much found all the resources that I did through creators on Instagram. So I wanted to compile everything in a way for people who are interested in learning more, people who are adoptees, etc., to be able to easily find and access resources. So I created that, and I just update it when I find an article or something that I think would be relevant. It's not a super widespread database, I don't think, because I have the free version of the website builder I use, so you can't find it on Google, I don't think, but I posted it, on different places and things. So I've had people who fill out my type form and say that they found it very helpful still. So that makes me very happy. But I just wanted to do something for the adoptee community that has given so much to me.
Lasting impact all over the place, Mei. You're just doing all kinds of stuff. Who were some of the creators that you were learning from when you first started, seeking resources?
I remember Angela Tucker is sticking out to me. I think there was another creator called I Heart Erica. I don't know if that's her, their username.
The name actually sounds familiar to me.
And then Cam Lee Small, who provides therapy resources. And I think you, Patrick, as well. I think that might have been how we connected. Is that like I saw that you were starting to post as well.
That's what he was fishing for. He wanted that shout out.
Yeah. I think that's how I came across you too. Is that you were like in the beginning too, and you were coming up, and
that makes sense.
No, yep. He's not on your website. No, I'm looking at it.
No, I'm pretty sure he is.
We've done a couple things. We've had a couple conversations before, and we did. You came on my Clubhouse thing, did you? Or what did we do?
I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah,
Clubhouse.
Yes, yes. So yeah, were there any? Okay, so learning from adoptee creators of all ilk and background and place that they've come from. I don't know. I'm trying to describe them as. Kind of like how your work is rooted in all adoptee experiences, not just specifically East Asian adoptee experiences. And we have our specific ethnicities and experiences that we do come from. Were there any Chinese adoptee creators or folks that you connected with that you were really like, oh, hey, that is stuff that I wasn't even thinking about. I'd love to be connected, that you learned a lot from?
There's this one account, and I'm pretty sure they're a Chinese adoptee. I think their handle is Displaced Klingon, and they post a lot about Star Trek, but then like the parallels with adoption. I've never seen Star Trek, but I found their content very interesting and very thought provoking. I'm trying to think who else. No one else is coming to mind. I think because a lot of Chinese adoptees are also my age. So a lot of the other ones that I was looking at that were more established were primarily transracial Black adoptees and Korean adoptees that were older and had, academic experience, for example. Like I found them published in papers or, were just a little more established in their careers and or adoption journeys and lives.
That makes sense. Everybody coming up at the same time.
You were talking earlier about all the inspiration from watching Ryan Higa and some of the other online creators, which I loved as well. I was a huge fan of those comedians and the content, and I always enjoyed how creative they could be. And I don't know, it always spawned like a different level of creativity for me, where I would create like animated videos and things like that myself, or I'd do video editing of sorts and stuff. But and then I got into photography. Did any of that stuff that you saw, did that get you into the artistic side of things that you're in now? Because you're an artist, you do amazing work, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you, because I noticed there are some Asian themes in your artwork. Are you drawing kind of, just what do you draw from, I guess, to create these drawings?
So in my art, can I plug my art? My art page?
Definitely can plug your art. Please do.
Okay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In my art page, one word at Post Nostalgia Prints. A lot of I to preface, I've been drawing and pursuing random creative hobbies since as young as I can remember. Like in kindergarten, I would pretend to sleep for 20 minutes and then ask if I could draw. So I just love doing creative things for as long as I can remember. I would say in a lot of the online art spaces that I grew up seeing, like Tumblr and DeviantArt and even YouTube, for example, I made polymer clay figurines for a while. In that space, there was a lot of Japanese influence. It was kind of that era of like kawaii culture. So like I had a concept of Japanese food, for example, and also like watching anime. I had some concept of that and some concept of food, and I incorporate in my art now. I incorporate a lot of food, a lot of Asian food as well in my art. But I think now a lot of it is I just draw what I enjoy. So, for example, I have a drawing of a red panda in a Ramune bottle, but drinking ramune at my local Chinese restaurant was just a core childhood memory. So I feel like something like that is just drawing from my personal experience. Or, for example, I have another one where it's a cat cafe and it's inspired by a picture in Taiwan. So it's just things that I personally enjoy, and I think a lot of my interests intersect with Asian related things like food and scenes and stuff like that. So I think it just comes out in my art because my art is a product of me, but it's not very deliberate.
The art is a product of you.
Yeah. Your artwork is so good.
Thank you.
Do you ship?
I do. I do sell my art. I do sell my art.
Yeah, I'll talk with you after the show.
Okay.
I'm gonna need some in my house.
Okay.
ASAP. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think we glossed over like kind of an important moment. Maybe it wasn't that important in your life, but like probably arguably important to the show. Was 2020 the moment that you like woke up and you were like, oh man, I'm adopted and that means things? Or was it like always around and then there was something in your exploration of proximity to whiteness and anti-blackness and all that kind of stuff that made you kind of reframe your sense of who you are as an adoptee?
That's a heavy question. So I think my initial response to that is being Asian has always been at the forefront of my mind because the environment I grew up in, I could not forget that I was. Because ever since my brother and I were little kids, we faced racism. We had to stop riding our bus because my brother and I got bullied because we were Asian. Damn. And even through high school, I experienced racism and microaggressions and things like that. So I could never forget that I was Asian. It was more so being okay with accepting that being an adoptee was part of me being Asian, that they could not be separated. But growing up, I never had an issue at all with being Asian. The way that my parents raised me, we were always told to be very proud to be Asian. It was always a very positive thing. But unfortunately, the environment that we grew up in, it was not seen as a positive thing. So I never thought there was something wrong with me. I never thought that being Asian was a bad thing, that I was wrong, that I didn't belong. It was more so my environment was telling me that people who were not white did not belong. Mm-hmm. But I never felt like in my heart that I didn't belong simply because I was Asian.
Yeah. I hear you. And one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot, it's kind of like a through line of the show, is like we hold among the many identities that we hold like Asianness and adoptee-ness, being an adoptee, as kind of like separate identities that have like a large Venn diagram, right? And so for many of us who like we've had the privilege of talking to guests of the show and other adoptees, they talk about like, oh yeah, like I always knew that I was adopted, but it wasn't until whatever moment in my life that I really thought critically about what it meant to be Asian or Asian American specifically. And then for others, like you and I, like we always knew that we were Asian and had people in our lives to help us celebrate that, but we didn't really think about the ramifications of what it meant to be adopted. And so like for me, not to rehash old stories for our listeners, but like 2020 for me was like my moment of like awakening as an adoptee. And so like I've always been very aware, like I've been adopted, you know, like aware of my being adopted, but like adoptee as an identity that I hold, like that was like kind of a big moment where I found myself realizing like how different it was to be an adoptee and Asian, as opposed to just like trying to like ignore that and bottle it and just be like whatever, just like move past it and whatever. So I know that in your form you talked about like how and like you could be Asian and adopted, right? But was there like a moment that you, and I mean, I'm guessing it was around 2020 and all that stuff, but like, what was the moment that you shifted how you thought about being adopted and Asian? Or was it just that you, I don't know, like as you examined and you learned and you listened, that you just like were able to grow into a fuller acceptance of who you are?
Honestly, it was just going to therapy.
Yeah.
It was just going to therapy, and shout out to my therapist.
Shout out.
She is also a transracial Asian adoptee, so it's transracial Korean adoptee, and I worked very hard to find one who had a similar lived experience as me, and I was able to come to that full acceptance of, I feel like a lot of other adoptees I've met to have, spoken about, not feeling Asian enough, not feeling whole, all these things. I definitely felt like that. And first of all, knowing that I was not alone in feeling those things, especially talking with my friends in the adoptee community, but also fully accepting that I can hold these two identities and one does not make the other lesser. Was just a very healing moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that in that like 2020, 2021 time frame?
It was in, I think it was in the end of like 2022. So definitely later. Okay. I think 2020, it was when I started thinking about those things. And then I really got into it amongst other things with my therapist. And then it was kind of able to just piece everything together and, finally feel whole as an individual.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
I am, and I think we're probably going to go to food here pretty soon, but I'm interested in, so you talked about like when you started to seek out adoptee creators and you found kind of a bunch of other people who were not Chinese adoptees because you were kind of coming up alongside people who were telling their story. Mm-hmm. As of our recording this, the first ever Chinese adoptee conference, symposium, or whatever it is called Context, has just wrapped up or is wrapping up currently, which I think is amazing because last year at Con, I left the gala, or I was walking out of the gala, and there was a big group of people. I'm like, ooh, what's going on here? And I poked my head in, and it was all the Chinese adoptees. And I was like, this is fucking sweet. Because I'm like, this is the point of like stuff like this. So I feel like it's a momentous thing at least to me. And I think in our community on a large scale, it should be considered that. I'm wondering, like, as you have been, at least for the last 2.5, 3 years, navigating at like this higher like level of acceptance, of like fuller acceptance, and you're seeing some of like these things like a Context or like some of these other Chinese adoptee creators, people who are like putting stuff out in the world and making things happen. What are you like really excited about as we kind of move forward? Because I think there's a lot of stuff happening in the world just in general right now that's terrible. I think there's a lot of stuff that's happening with adoption from China and from Korea and a lot of different places that is in equal measure terrible and maybe good. Who knows? I'm interested in, like, as somebody who's been in this work, who's been doing it, for a bit now, as you have been doing, kind of what is is there anything that's getting you excited about continuing on and what this community might be on the precipice of, from your perspective? And maybe there's not, and that's totally okay. We can just cut this out.
I know that the conference happened over the weekend, and I was on the newsletter when they first announced the beginnings of it, so I was really excited about it. I unfortunately could not go, which I'm very sad about, but I hope that I'm able to go in the future. I think it's really, really cool that, as I was saying, the generation of Chinese adoptees is now kind of finally, we're growing up now and able to start organizing things like this. on our own. And I know that a lot of academic literature that I looked at, especially when I was working on like my college thesis, is related to adoption. A lot of the people talked about Korean adoptee scholars kind of setting the foundation for a lot of the discourse that's going on and a lot of the research and things, and then a lot of Chinese adoptees now building off of that. I am really excited to see it finally kind of, being able to build up and talk about this next generation of adoptee experiences, because I know that the Korean adoptee community is massive, but I also know that the Chinese adoptee community is massive too. But now we're just coming of age to be able to, publish things in articles and do research and talk about our experiences because we're growing up. I think it's super exciting. And for example, when I'm in an adoptee group and I see someone post that they're doing their grad research or something on something related to adoption, I most often try to volunteer and participate because I kind of view that as my due diligence of building up the scholarly body of work related to adoption, because I know that when I was doing my research, there wasn't a whole lot. So I kind of feel like it's my duty to help out with that, especially when I have the time and the means to. But I feel very, very excited that there's things being able to be organized like this for and by Chinese adoptees. For example, a really big group formerly called FCCNY, Families with Children from China, New York, now was recently changed to Chinese Adoptee Alliance. I was on the DC chapter of the events planning committee in 2023 for a year. And I was in the beginning of when that change was just starting to be enacted and adoptees were coming on to lead it. And it was super exciting being a part of that change and being able to organize events for adoptees in the DMV, especially all of us being young adults, and we're able to talk about these things and articulate it. But I think I'm just really excited that a lot of people are choosing to talk about it and are choosing to talk about the good and the not so good, because, as a lot of adoptees know, that like oftentimes only one side is shown, and it's oftentimes the good side of adoption stories. So I'm really glad that platforms like this exist where people can just share their stories, the good, the bad, the in between, because it can help a lot of other adoptees not feel alone, but also I think help adoptive parents who their children might be going through something similar, or people who are looking to adopt or considering adoption can hear the vast amount of stories and experiences that people are sharing who went through this. And that was one of the reasons why I created my database, and I've sent it to some people who I know who are considering adoption and said, here's resources from people who are adopted and what their experiences are like. Please look at this before you adopt, so you can kind of see, especially when you're transracially adopting, that's what a lot of the content that I compiled was related to. Please look at these resources so you're a lot more informed and can assess if you feel like you can, support a child in that way. So overall, very, very excited and happy that Chinese adoptees and just broader adoptee communities are choosing to use their platforms in this way to tell their stories. And I've seen I've seen quite a few Chinese adoptees too use Chinese social media like Xiaohongshu to be able to find their birth family. So that was something else that was super awesome. Just being able to see people use their platforms and use their voices to share their stories with other people who might not know otherwise.
I'm excited about that too. I'm here for it. I appreciate you sharing all that, and I appreciate actually the thing I'm going to roll into food with is the statistic is that Chinese adoptees, I think it's the second largest group of international adoptees out of Asia, correct? Which is, to me, insane when you think about how many people's stories does there are to tell, and they've only got sent out in a very finite period of time. We are at least, a couple 70 years. We got 7 decades. Y'all are about in a 20 decade or 20 year period.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and just like
it's
hearing when I was doing research too about it, the different reasons, and most of the research that I did, it was focused on Chinese or adoption from China to other countries and Korean adoption to other countries, and just comparing the socio-political reasons. Even that in itself is so interesting. And I've talked to people as well when I think they might be a little more familiar with Korean adoption if they're older, and they, ask about like, oh, can't you just go and like find your birth family or something? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. So just people, I think, just because it's not as known, just the nuances between different countries too, and those experiences. So again, like being able to share your stories and what that's like and how it varies between different countries, I think is super, super important.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Yes.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface even, so I'm sure there is even 100 million more things that we need to talk about. And we need to add our snack in. So we are going to do that real quick, and we will come back and keep chatting with Mei Tomko.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show food portion. This is where Patrick gives us his hot takes on the food. Go ahead.
Right,
what is it?
We're jumping right in.
So jumping right in.
We're doing Paldo's.
Patrick couldn't wait.
Bibim Chips signature. We're not recording this on video, so I don't know why I'm doing that. My first comment is I like that they've done a double brand because they have a picture of the chips, and then they have a picture of the fully branded bottle of hot sauce that they would also sell in the store. All right, and my second thing is a positive. This made in Korea tag is dope. Every product that's made in Korea should have this particular labeling.
It feels it's giving like very like 80s style graphic design in a way that like I really am digging.
Okay, I actually do have one more thing. On the back in the ingredients portion, it does say at the very end that it contains gluten, but only for Australians. So I think we're okay. I think we have gluten because I'm not currently in Australia, nor am I Australian.
Why would it say only for Australia?
Paldo, fun and yum.
No, it's manufactured in a facility that processes all of these things. So if it comes from Australia, well, now it feels like false advertising. If it's coming from Australia, how could it be made in Korea? So what the heck?
It also says cancer and reproductive harm, but then above, only for California, USA.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just saw that.
They're always going out for those Californians. No, it's because that's the California law. Yeah, I mean, that's why they have to put that warning on there. But that's funny, too, that if you think about it, to put that warning on there only for California, it's not only for California, it's only required by California. It's like, oh, boy. Amazing. But yes, I don't know. I thought these looked interesting. I'm glad they're not expired, and I'm glad they look tasty because I do love a good spicy, tangy chip. So these are Bibim Chips. Bibim Chips is what it's kind of pronounced as. It's like a babijang. Babijang.
Bibimbap? Okay. Is that what you're referring to?
No,
I'm
the
so
sauce.
Furious I was away from
the bibimbap
to not be
bibimbap sauce is the sauce that it's flavored with, which is kind of how. So here's what I don't know: how similar is that to gochujang? Is it just less spicy, or?
I can look it up.
Oh
yeah, I'm in there. Bibimbap.
Can I chew with my mic on?
Oh yeah, please.
I'm like, how obnoxious?
Oh no, this is mukbang. We're doing like ASMR stuff right now.
Wait. Oh, bibimbap is the sauce version of gochujang. Gochujang is the paste version. According to... Damn it, I'm reading an AI overview. I don't want you, AI. Go away. But I think that's the main... Well, I don't know.
It's kind of tastes like sun chips.
Yeah.
Bibim just
like garden
means
salsa.
Accurate comp.
Oh,
it also has...
Yeah.
It also kind of reminds me of like pork rinds or something because it's kind of
Yep. Also,
well, its top ingredient is corn chip pellet 1. So whatever that one is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty boring.
Yeah, I could eat this whole bag.
Okay. So actually, the ingredient is bibimbap seasoning, which is red pepper, chili paste powder. So gochujang, sweet in flavor, sesame oil powder, and then soy sauce powder. So I think bibimbap is like a sweet and spicy gochujang. It's like gochujang plus, basically. So I think that's what the...
It's a little. It's got a little tang to it, but I wouldn't say it's overly spicy at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's spicier than I thought it would be. I'm just like, I really had doubts, I guess, when it said sweet and spicy. I was like, I doubt it. But it's got, a spice is present.
It's addicting. It's a pretty good chip. I could eat more of these for sure. I'm only not eating them right now so I can talk.
Nathan, if you ate 2 whole bags, it would only be 2 servings, but that would be 810 calories.
It's not as sweet as I thought it would be. A little more spicy, but not too bad either. It's mild, but it's got a good flavor and a good crunch.
I want more flavor.
Yeah, I would like a little tad more flavor, but the salt level is good. It's not overly salty either. Like a Frito sometimes can be like way too much salt.
I want like a hotter.
You like spicy, of course. Sure.
I
maybe
think
you could go buy that
fried a little more, so it's like a deeper,
a better crunch.
I just crumbed my laptop, man. It's been a while since I've done that. Okay, so I would say that I agree with all your points, and like the shrimp cracker, that like the flavor grows over time. These grow over time. Like the overall flavor. So the spice builds up, the savory flavor builds up. So the more you eat, if you just pound a couple while I'm talking, you like really kind of get the stronger sense of the flavor. I really like it. I love gochujang. I will say, one of my friends one time for one of our Korean Asian holiday gatherings made gochujang cookies, and I could not hang because it was like too spicy. It was good, but it was like too spicy. But this, I think, like it's good. It's got like a good level of spice that just kind of sits on your tongue. I actually like the level of like crispiness, like because it's got that nice like it's crispy, but it's like also kind of airy, but it's like not quite as airy as like a puff. So yeah, I've been talking a while, so I'm just gonna jump straight into it with my rating. I'm gonna give this. Let's see, if shrimp chips are 5 out of 5, I'm gonna give this like 4.75. It's right there. Damn.
Yeah.
You know what? No, that's not fair. I'm going to give it a 5. I was going to say I'm comparing it. I was comparing it to the shrimp crackers, but actually they're separate products, but in the similar thing. So like, I think it's good. I think it's like super eatable. The only thing that like I'm a little like is the bag is 400 calories, which seems intense, but also the bag is like pretty dense. Big. Yeah, so
it's not one of those like air bags.
Yeah, which so like maybe if you divide that, if you consider this 4 servings, I'd say that's a pretty solid snack. So yeah, I'm gonna say 5 out of 5. May, what about you? What would you give it?
I agree with your assessment. I feel like I think I would want it a little more crispy, like
you wanted to cut your tongue a little bit when you tear up your gum when you chew?
like where it's a little harder because like when you're talking about it being a puff, I like a little more crunch, like solid crunch than air.
Oh, you like those crunchy Cheetos, not those puffy Cheetos.
Yes.
Okay.
But I feel like the flavor is really good. It kind of tastes like I'm eating kind of like the pork rind, but where it has kind of like the meaty flavor, and it's making me crave like pork or something.
Soju.
Like it's making me crave
Bibim
meat
Chips
because the sauce would
crave
be
pork.
like, I'm just imagining the sauce on meat because it's like spicy and sweet and like I would give this, I think I would give it a 4 out of 5 solely because of texture.
Wow. It's a pretty low, like, it's a strong marking down for texture though.
But like texture, like it's the mouthfeel. Like
I'm not,
like
no, I'm just like,
I feel you.
I get what she's saying.
I think you're the only guest who's been like really keying in on the texture. So it's more just a comment on like, that's interesting that like that's a thing that's like very important to you, whereas like it's obviously less important for other of our guests. So I'm not trying to invalidate your opinion. I'm just saying I just find it interesting.
I'm just a tough critic.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We're not invalidatist on the show.
I'm here to say yes to all women, okay? Unless they're bad people. So
I hear May. I like it. It is very crunchy, but it is getting stuck, and I think this might be because it's not as crispy or crunchy. It's getting stuck in my teeth really easily, kind of like a cheese puff, kind of like those big Cheetos. And for that reason, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, it's not like a Frito or a corn chip or something where you can just eat it and swallow. It's like it stays in your teeth so that you have a snack 30 minutes later. But
gross.
That is gross.
What?
I'm pissed. Go brush your teeth immediately afterwards.
Go brush your teeth.
Yeah. But my point is, I also like the flavor. I think it is a really good flavor. I would like it to be a little more flavorful. So I'm not going to go as high as KJ. I'm going to go in between the two of you. I'm going to go about a 4.5, I think, on the chip rating for me. So it's very good, and I'm going to continue eating this whole bag. And I may buy these again. So
Patrick's about to give it a 2.
That's a good rating. If you're going to go buy it again, I'm going to give it a 3.
Whoa!
I think that
You got high corn standards or something?
it feels very plain. You said that it just builds like the Nongshim, and I disagree. I'm like,
bro, how much of your bag have you eaten?
I mean, like a freaking quarter of it, if not half of it already.
We are talking to Patrick, who's done the hot ones challenge twice.
You know I'd be snacking. Yeah, I just think it just feels very plain to me.
All right.
And I'm like, I would like it to be a little more fried. But mine is more particularly about the flavor. I feel like it's I feel like they just like spritzed little speckles of seasoning on there. That's like, hey, this one's good. Throw it in the bag. So I would like a little more flavor for me, and I think it would elevate it to a 4 or higher if that flavor was right. But as of right now, I'm just eating a corn chip, and I can buy those in America. Or more specifically, in Indiana.
I was like, these were also bought in America, bro.
You know what? I rescind.
They were made in Korea, but they were bought in America.
Yeah.
Well, allegedly could be
glutenized in Australia.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly. Sorry to be the contrarian.
No, hey, this just goes to show you that all opinions matter, and that all tastes. There's a variety of tastes out there.
I was a little worried. KJ was coming for May's opinion. I didn't know what he was going to think of mine.
I was not coming for her opinion. Just surprised by her rating scale.
KJ did say he would say yes to about 50% of women. I heard that.
Yeah, I say yes to only my wife. But otherwise, no space and time.
Well, I'm still on board with finding some pork now too. So maybe make these as a nacho base. Put some shredded pork on top nachos,
or just buy the hot sauce.
You know what it looks like.
Yeah,
it's right here on the bag.
Maybe that's what it's suggesting, is that if you don't like the flavor, add more. So there you go.
That's how they get you.
Or dip it in it.
Mm-hmm.
What
dip
a great
it in. It's like a salsa.
Don't say to do that.
Like, it would be a good marinade.
It would.
It would, yeah.
I'm all about adding.
You could use these as like a crusting agent for a meat.
Crusting agent. I need a
Korean tuna salad or casserole. And then these on top.
I'm just saying. Yeah. Okay. Or you could sprinkle it on top of your kimbap.
My baboon.
I would probably put these in my ramen too. My ramen.
Ooh, that would be good.
That would probably be pretty good.
All right.
Okay, now we're making me hungry.
Mei, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your story. If people want to connect with you, where can they do so?
You can find my Instagram at Post Nostalgia. That's my public Instagram. I share coffee content and my life. And then you can also follow my art Instagram at Post Nostalgia Prints.
Nice. Yeah, and for what it's worth, I would 100% recommend getting you some of her prints. For real, I'm gonna figure out. I don't know if you. I looked. There's not an Etsy shop, so I don't know how.
I'm working on a website. Just DM me.
Nice. All right. I will DM you for two things then.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's so great. And like I said, we're just so grateful that you came on the show. We always love hearing from our Chinese pals about their adoption stories. To your point, like we started as a Korean show and expanded. So I think we need just more complexity. Want to hear more stories, and it's no small thing to ask an adoptee to share their story. And so we're really grateful that you have come on and have done so in a public manner so that other people, be they Korean, Chinese, or whatever, can hopefully find some community and find some friendship. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And I guess we need to wrap up, which is where we say all the ways you can connect with us. So you can connect with the Janchi Show at Janchi Show on all social platforms. Send us an email at janchishow@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail at 972-677-8867. For honestly, whatever Rick or at Blasian says left us a voicemail. Shout out to you. We'll play it eventually once I remember to download it. What am I forgetting? We've got a Facebook group, maybe. We've got
a website.
We've got a website.
We got stuff. It's out there.
JanchiShow.com. Merch is
I got stickers.
pending.
I gave a lot of stickers out.
Merch is pending. DM Nathan if you want stickers. We got mugs, I think. Maybe an apron. I don't know. We have stuff. Yeah.
We got
Anyways, you can find me at KJ Roelke, wherever I want to be found on the internet.
I am N Nowak on Instagram.
And I am Patrick in the World on Instagram, and I also host multiple other podcasts. You can probably find it at Patrick in the World.
Some variation of conversation is going to be in the name of his podcasts, and chances are in the next 1 to 7 years, the Janchi Show will be renamed Conversation with
Janchi.
It'll be the Janchi Conversation Show.
The Janchi Conversation.
Literally, the I Can't Wait podcast was originally titled something different with the word conversation.
We love a good conversational yap.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that's just my brand. So
yeah, it's not your brand. So make sure you follow Patrick, because I'm going to see when he runs for office. So yeah, it's on the cards. Thank you everyone for listening, for supporting the show. Tell a friend. Is that it? Is that how we sign off?
Tell a friend and tell two friends, and then
and tell us that you're happy we're back.
Yeah, Mei, thank you again, and until next time, everyone, Janchi
Hail!